CTV's Washington Bureau Chief Joy Malbon with how the day unfolded inside and outside court. Joy.
Sandy, this is one of the most economically significant cases the High Court has heard in decades, and it challenges presidential authority. The Handmaid's Tale protesters are back, demonstrating against Donald Trump's tariffs and use of presidential power. The president has slapped tariffs on more than 90 nations, including Canada, by declaring a national economic emergency. The justices heard arguments whether Trump's use of the 1977 law without congressional approval is even legal.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
It's the president's signature tool to strike new trade deals, claiming it addresses trade deficits and protects manufacturing.
President Trump has negotiated agreements worth trillions of dollars with major trading partners. Unwinding those agreements, he warns, would expose us to ruthless trade retaliation.
It's a congressional power, not a presidential power to tax. And you want to say tariffs are not taxes, but that's exactly what they are.
Okay, so Trump's classified documents case just got dismissed and he thinks he's won. He thinks he got away with it. He's celebrating. He's claiming vindication. He's saying the whole thing was a witch hunt. But here's what Trump doesn't want you to know. While his criminal case is disappearing, a federal judge just ordered the FBI to release all the records from that investigation. All of them. And the judge specifically said that Trump's immunity and the dismissal of charges remove the excuses for keeping these records secret. The judge is essentially saying to Congress and to the American public, here's everything. Here's what he actually did. Here's the evidence. Here's the documents. And now Congress is looking at all this information and saying this is grounds for impeachment. This is a bombshell. This is proof of misconduct. A federal judge has essentially handed Congress a roadmap for impeachment by forcing all the Mar-a-Lago investigation records into the public domain. And what comes out is going to be absolutely devastating for Trump. But before we go any further, real quick, let's be honest, you can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Pump Politics, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, join our free newsletter. We'll send the news straight to your inbox every day. Just click the link in the description to join. And if you just want to support what we're doing, join us. Be part of the community that actually cares about the truth. All right, let's get back to the video.
It's both James Comey and Letitia James. Both of these rulings, they're very similar. It's for the same reason, saying that a U.S. attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia who has brought both of these indictments, Lindsay Halligan, was unlawfully appointed. So this ruling at its core really has nothing to do with the actual merits of these criminal allegations against Comey and James, whether it be the lying to Congress allegations against James Comey or the mortgage fraud accusations against Letitia James. They deny that, of course, but instead this ruling is really saying that this U.S. attorney was never lawfully appointed in the first place, and so all of these actions, specifically when she went before those grand juries to seek those indictments, that all of that is invalid and that these charges all have to be dismissed.
Get back to, come on, are you kidding me? The criminal case gets thrown out on a technicality, but a federal judge turns around and orders the release of all the evidence from that case. The judge says the public has a right to see what actually happened. The judge says Trump's immunity doesn't mean we keep secrets. The judge says these records need to come out. And then special counsel Jack Smith's report comes out, and it says Trump's conduct compelled prosecution. It says Trump's retention of classified documents and his conduct after the election both compelled charges under Department of Justice principles. It says the facts were serious enough that prosecution was necessary. And now all that information is being released to Congress and to the public. And impeachment advocates are looking at this and saying, this is it. This is exactly what we need. This is the ammunition for impeachment articles. This is proof of abuse of power and obstruction. A judge has handed us the evidence on a silver platter. And here's what's absolutely wild about this situation. Trump lost the criminal case, but he's losing the political and constitutional battle at the same time. His defense was that the special counsel was improperly appointed. He didn't win because he was innocent. He won on a technical legal argument about how the Justice Department was structured. But the judge who threw out the case, Judge Howell, she didn't buy that excuse for keeping the evidence secret. She said, no, the public deserves to see what happened. The public deserves to see the evidence of Trump's conduct. And she ordered the FBI to search its files and release records from the investigation. And the deadline was February 20th, 2025. So documents have been coming out, information has been spilling into the public domain, and impeachment advocates have been using that information to make their case that Trump engaged in conduct that meets the threshold for removal. Are you serious right now? A federal judge is essentially saying to Congress, the criminal justice system is out of the game because Trump got immunity, but here's all the evidence anyway, so Congress can decide what to do about it. The judge is telling Congress we have a constitutional obligation to look at this information. The judge is saying the public has a right to know what Trump did. The judge is removing the barriers to disclosure and saying, here's everything. Take it and do what you think is right. And Congress is looking at what's coming out and saying, yeah, we think this is grounds for impeachment. This is evidence of Trump mishandling classified materials. This is evidence of Trump obstructing the investigation. This is evidence of Trump trying to hide national security secrets and then lying about it. And we can use this as the basis for impeachment articles. So here's what's happening right now. Trump thinks he's won because his criminal case got dismissed, but he's actually losing because a federal judge has ordered the release of all the evidence of what he did. Trump thought he could hide behind the technical legal argument about the special counsel. But judges are saying, no, we're not hiding the evidence. We're releasing it. Congress can see it. The public can see it. And once Congress and the public see what Trump actually did, once they see the evidence of national security crimes and obstruction, they're going to push for impeachment. And that's exactly what's happening. Impeachment advocates are mobilizing. Congress members are looking at this. And they're building a case for new impeachment articles based on the Mar-a-Lago document scandal. This is a bombshell moment because Trump is being exposed even though his criminal case is technically over. Okay, so let's dig into what actually happened with the Mar-a-Lago case and the documents and understand why judges are ordering all this information released and why Congress is seeing this as an impeachment opportunity. Because this is a really interesting legal and political situation where the criminal case is dead, but the underlying conduct is becoming more exposed. And that's creating an opening for congressional action through impeachment. So let's look at the specifics and understand what's going on. First, Judge Aileen Cannon threw out the entire classified documents criminal case against Trump. She ruled that Jack Smith, the special counsel, was unconstitutionally appointed. She said the way the Justice Department created that special counsel position violated separation of powers principles. And because Smith's appointment was legally defective, everything he did was tainted. All the charges were invalid. All the counts were dismissed. The entire indictment, which had charged Trump with roughly 40 felony counts related to taking and hiding classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, just disappeared. Poof, gone. All because of a technical argument about how Smith was appointed. Trump didn't win because the evidence showed he was innocent. Trump won because of a procedural defect in Smith's appointment. But here's where this gets interesting for understanding how the legal system is responding. Judge Beryl Howell, who is a different judge in Washington, looked at that dismissal and said we need to release the records from this investigation anyway. The judge issued a FOIA order, a Freedom of Information Act order, saying the FBI needs to search its files and release records related to the Trump documents investigation. And the judge gave specific reasoning. The judge said now that Trump has been granted immunity and now that the criminal charges have been dismissed, the usual reasons for keeping investigation files secret don't apply anymore. There's no ongoing prosecution. There's no trial where we need to protect investigative techniques. There's no defendant who needs to be protected. So the judge said we should release this information. The public has a right to see what happened. Congress has a right to see what happened. And the judge was pretty explicit about this. Judge Howell rejected the FBI's arguments that they needed to keep material secret because there might be future prosecutions. The judge said, no, there's no realistic chance of new criminal charges. The statute of limitations is running out. Trump has immunity. There's not going to be another criminal prosecution. So those excuses for secrecy don't work. The judge said FOIA is a critical tool for the public to understand what the government investigated and what the evidence showed, and the judge ordered the FBI to start releasing records by February 20th, 2025. That means documents started coming out right after that deadline. Information about what the investigation found. Evidence about what Trump actually did with these documents. Now at the same time, Jack Smith, the special counsel whose appointment was questioned, he released his report. And this report is significant. Smith wrote that Trump's bid to cling to power after the 2020 election compelled prosecution under Department of Justice principles. Smith said Trump's retention of classified documents compelled prosecution. Smith said both of those things, the election interference and the documents, both of them were serious enough that the DOJ felt obligated to bring charges. The facts were bad enough that prosecution was necessary. And that's what Smith put in his official report. That's what the government said about Trump's conduct. So you've got a situation where a judge ordered the release of investigation files and a special counsel report that documents serious misconduct by Trump. And impeachment advocates looked at this and said, this is it. This is the roadmap for impeachment. This is what we need. Because here's the thing about impeachment. Impeachment doesn't require a criminal conviction. Impeachment doesn't require proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Impeachment requires Congress to decide that a president's conduct was serious enough to warrant removal. And once you have a federal judge ordering the release of investigation records and a special counsel report documenting serious misconduct, Congress has ammunition to move forward with impeachment. And here's what's particularly clever about the judicial strategy. The judges are essentially saying the criminal system is out of the game because of technical rules and immunity, but Congress still has a role to play. Congress still has a constitutional responsibility. Judges are releasing information and saying, Congress, this is for you. This is the evidence. This is what the investigation found. Now you decide what to do about it. The judges are basically inviting Congress to step in where the criminal system has failed. The judges are saying, here's the factual record. Here's what happened. Now Congress can use that factual record to decide whether impeachment is appropriate. And that's exactly what impeachment advocates are doing. They're taking the information that's coming out from the Mar-a-Lago investigation files. They're looking at Jack Smith's report. They're reading the details about how Trump handled classified documents. They're reading about obstruction. They're reading about how Trump allegedly tried to hide materials and refused to return them and lied about what he had. And they're saying this is abuse of power. This is obstruction. This is exactly the kind of conduct that the Constitution contemplates should result in removal through impeachment. And here's the political genius of this moment. Trump thought he was getting away with it. Trump thought the dismissal of the criminal case meant vindication. Trump was out there celebrating. But while he's celebrating, all the evidence of what he actually did is becoming public. All the records from the investigation are coming out. And instead of Trump getting away with something, he's actually being exposed in unprecedented detail. The judge ordered the release of the evidence. The judge decided the public should know what Trump did. And now Congress is looking at all that evidence and deciding whether to pursue impeachment. Okay, so let's break down what's actually happening here and why this represents such a significant moment for the possibility of impeachment based on the Mar-a-Lago document scandal. Because this is about how the legal system is responding to Trump getting away with things on technical grounds, but still being held accountable through transparency and congressional action. So let's look at 3 key points that help explain what's going on. First point, the criminal justice system failed to hold Trump accountable because of a technical legal issue, but the judicial system is still working by forcing transparency. Judge Cannon dismissed the case on a procedural argument about Smith's appointment. That's a technical issue. It has nothing to do with whether Trump's conduct was criminal or whether he's guilty. But Judge Howell responded by saying, we're going to make sure the public and Congress see what actually happened in the investigation. Judge Howell ordered the release of records. Judge Howell said the public has a right to know. So even though the criminal case failed on a technicality, the courts are still ensuring accountability through transparency. The courts are making sure Congress has the information it needs to decide about impeachment. That's an important check on power. That's judges ensuring that just because the criminal system failed doesn't mean Trump gets away with everything. There's still going to be transparency. There's still going to be accountability. Second point, Jack Smith's report documented serious misconduct and said prosecution was compelled under DOJ principles. That's important because it's an official government document that says Trump's conduct was serious. It's not just impeachment advocates claiming Trump did something wrong. It's the special counsel who investigated Trump saying his conduct compelled charges under DOJ policy. That's powerful ammunition for Congress because Congress can point to the special counsel's own report and say, look, even the government that investigated Trump said his conduct was serious enough to require prosecution. And if it was serious enough for prosecution, it's serious enough for impeachment. That's a much stronger argument than just impeachment advocates making claims. You've got the special counsel saying it on the record. Third point, judges are essentially inviting Congress to act where the criminal system has failed. The judges are ordering the release of information. The judges are saying the public has a right to know. The judges are removing barriers to disclosure. And in doing all that, judges are saying Congress should look at this evidence and decide what to do. Judges are creating space for congressional oversight and congressional action. Judges are saying the judicial branch can't prosecute Trump because of immunity and technical issues, but Congress can still hold him accountable through impeachment. And that's a very smart way for judges to ensure that even if the criminal system fails, There's still a path to accountability through the political system. Judges are ensuring that Trump can't completely escape consequences just because of technical legal issues. So here's what's actually happening. Trump's criminal case is dismissed, but the evidence of his conduct is being released to the public and to Congress. Trump thought he was winning by getting the case dismissed, but he's actually being exposed in greater detail because judges ordered the release of all the evidence. And now Congress is looking at that evidence and deciding whether to move forward with impeachment. Trump got away from criminal prosecution, but he's not getting away from congressional accountability. And that's a huge deal because it shows that even if technical legal issues prevent criminal prosecution, there are still mechanisms for holding a president accountable. There's still impeachment. There's still congressional oversight. There's still the ability to remove a president from office based on his conduct. And here's what's likely to happen next. As more records get released from the Mar-a-Lago investigation, more evidence is going to come out about what Trump actually did. More details about how he handled classified materials, more evidence about obstruction, more proof of misconduct, and impeachment advocates are going to use all that information to build the case for impeachment. They're going to say, look, here's the evidence that Trump violated national security. Here's the proof that he obstructed justice. Here's the documentation that he lied about what he had, and Congress should impeach him based on this conduct. That's going to be the political argument that dominates the news cycle over the next several weeks as more records come out and as impeachment pressure builds. And the bigger picture is important to understand. This is how the constitutional system is supposed to work. The criminal justice system has limits. The criminal justice system requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt. The criminal justice system can fail because of technical legal issues or because of immunity. But impeachment is supposed to be a backstop. Impeachment is supposed to be a mechanism that Congress can use when the criminal system fails. And that's what we're seeing happen. The criminal system failed to hold Trump accountable because of a technical issue about Smith's appointment. So now Congress is being invited through judicial orders and through the release of evidence to use impeachment to hold Trump accountable instead. Judges are essentially saying, here's the evidence, Congress. This is your responsibility now. Decide what to do about it. So the bottom line is this. Trump's criminal case is over because of a procedural issue, but judges have ordered the release of all the evidence from that case. Jack Smith's report says Trump's conduct compelled prosecution, and Congress is looking at all this information and seeing grounds for impeachment. This is a bombshell moment because even though the criminal system technically failed, the legal system is working to ensure accountability through transparency and congressional action. Trump thought he was getting away with something, but he's actually being exposed in unprecedented detail, and that exposure is fueling a new push for impeachment. As more records come out and as evidence of Trump's conduct becomes clearer, the pressure on Congress to act is going to grow. And that's going to be the major story over the next several weeks and months. Trump got away from criminal prosecution, but he's not getting away from accountability because Congress is looking at the evidence and deciding that impeachment is the appropriate response. This is just the beginning of what's going to be a major political and constitutional battle over whether Trump's conduct at Mar-a-Lago warrants removal from office through impeachment.